University Registrar, Your Excellency Sir Rodney Williams, Central Bank Governor, Minister of Education, please allow me to adopt the protocol. The evening has been long. The last time I wore a matching suit, and I heard so many wonderful things said about me, and I was this nervous, was 22 years ago on my wedding day. But that worked out reasonably well, so I am anticipating that this will as well. And if ever in my life I have had problems, it really will come from the passion for West Indies cricket, because we all know what that is like. And I have to blame the Antiguan trio for that, because by the time I really understood cricket, Viv, Andy, Clive Lloyd, they were really advanced cricketers, but of the greats, Richie, Ambrose, and Lara were the ones who I really saw begin their careers, make their test debut, and so on. So I always took a special interest in that group. So I stand before you today with immense gratitude, profound humility, and an unwavering commitment to the pursuit of knowledge, innovation, and excellence. It is both an honor and a privilege to address you as the newly inducted principal of the Five Islands campus. The induction also makes me wonder, Chancellor, does it mean that all of my previous acts as principal are invalid? None of... This induction ceremony is the first of its kind at the campus as we embark on the exhilarating journey of something that most of us in senior management at UWI have never seen, a new landed campus. So, as the UWI joins with the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda and the Eastern Caribbean on this journey, UWI is committed to making the Uwi Five Islands campus a place that will not only shape the minds of future leaders, but also serve as a beacon of innovation, inclusivity, and academic excellence. I stand here today thankful. I'm thankful to the Almighty for the gift of life and health that allows me to stand here. And I'm thankful for my amazing support system. My mom, so much inspiration, so much love, made so many sacrifices. I always remember one of my favorite primary school teachers, whenever she sees me, she makes the joke, but I can't believe that you stayed in school and went all the way to PhD, because you were one of those students that for the first week of class, every time your mother dropped you, you would run out behind her crying, holding on to her frock, and so on. And I must admit, I was an unashamed mommy's boy. My sister, Heather, one of my biggest fans in life, 2 years older than me. But she was always a very loving, proud, supportive sister. Even though that meant on several occasions when I met her friends, I always got the look, and a few of them really would comment, but based on how she used to talk about you, I expected a little more, My amazing wife, I really never thought I would have bigger fans than my mother and my sister, but my wife has really stepped into the role, and right now, the competition is tight, real tight. Almost as tight as a Curtly Ambrose length. And my wonderful kids, Ayana and Aisha, my crowning achievement. And I won't reveal which one of them said when the induction ceremony notice came out. For their sins, they've had to sit through many UWI ceremonies, and they would say, but Daddy, wait. This is a ceremony just about you? Really? UWI serious? My dad, my relatives, my in-laws, Barbados, St. Vincent again, thank you. My personal friends, my Uwi family, the Mona SCR posse. These are all part of my support group. They all put up with me. And I also want to thank the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda at all levels, really, from my good friend DGG, the government, the minister, Harold Lovell, all levels, corporate sector. I see Gregory Georges, Sandy, and others who have really been there. Chairman Aziz, the fishermen. And it's true, they do eat lobster and conker the way we eat chicken in the other islands. And the fishermen supply me. The family at St. Paul's Church, they've all given me an amazing welcome to your fair land. Again, I never thought I would get as warm a welcome in another Caribbean island as I got in Barbados, coming from St. Vincent. But again, in Antigua and Barbuda here, the competition is real tight. And it's actually made me wonder what kind of welcome I would get if I ever got a chance to live and work in my favorite Caribbean island, Grenada. So Governor Antoine, you know. And of course, a special thanks to the Five Islands family, my brethren, Hiram, otherwise known as my registrar, the amazing colleagues on the academic staff, the students, the surrounding community, Green Apple, Peggy Pond, all for their warm embrace that has made this an especially smooth transfer. Now, as I embark on this opportunity to lead at the highest level in the UWI, I'm reminding of the view expressed by former Vice Chancellor Rex Nettleford, where he said that the UWI is the Caribbean region's best gift to itself. You know, access to a world-class university education delivered by a Caribbean university fully grounded in all the contextual complexities of the Caribbean, I think has been one of the most positive, transformative developments on our journey to date as a Caribbean civilization. Many of us today have experienced that. And as we go through this mission in Five Islands, one of the things I really want to challenge the society, a landed UWI campus in your space really can challenge your notions of elitism and who is bright and who has access to education and who can get a degree. When I went into sixth form in St. Vincent in 1983, the class there were 28 of us. And the teachers were all complaining about how big this class was. So if you go back then, there were 28 persons going into sixth form on that route. Now St. Vincent has a massive community college. So a UWI landed campus in your space, you must be prepared to really drop these elitist notions. As the Vice Chancellor says, we are an elite university, but we are not elitists. So Antiguans from all walks of life, people in the Eastern Caribbean, will now be able to get a degree. It will no longer be something for that special few bright people. Now, maintaining a world-class Caribbean university is not a cheap endeavor. While I don't subscribe to the Caribbean version of supposedly a Chinese view that cheap thing no good and good thing no cheap, there are good cheap things, but it is not a cheap venture. So 2013 financial year, Caribbean governments contributed approximately US $237 million to the UWI. For the most recent financial year, that contribution was $207 million US. Now that's a lot of money. That's a big chunk of change for small developing countries. And the UWI remains eternally grateful for the sacrifices that governments are making to continue this contribution. However, the UWI operates in the same economy that you guys operate in. We face the same inflation. Imagine if you had to sustain your household today on an income that was 15% lower than your salary 10 years ago, which is precisely the situation that we face right now in the UWI. The senior management at UWI acknowledges that our governments are doing as much as they can, and my statement is not a plea for more government financing. Although, Darrell, if you could find something, we wouldn't refuse it if you offered it, would be. However, but at UWI, we have embraced the challenge to bridge the financing gap between what our governments can contribute, what our students can pay, and what is required to have a world-class, globally competitive Caribbean institution. And so our strategic plan is grounded in this notion of the revenue revolution. That is really the mantra in UWI. How do we galvanize to close that financing gap? Because we don't want the UWI to slip into mediocrity. We must not take this world-class university, consistently ranked in the top 1% to 4% in the world whenever we've done it. We must not take it for granted. I grew up taking it for granted that the West Indies would always be winning. So that cricket metaphor always worked. So across the UWI, we are embarking on this revenue revolution. And I want to take this opportunity to really send a message to my UWI colleagues that we need to change. We have to embrace this revenue revolution. Change is not easy. I recently heard someone say that the only humans who embrace change and look forward to it are babies with wet diapers. So I understand how difficult that is to change, but we must do this for ourselves and the region to execute on this revenue revolution so that we close the funding gap between what our governments can pay, what our students can pay, but what is required to fund a globally competitive university in the Caribbean. And this is happening at UWI. Between the global campus and the regional headquarters, we have come up with a concept, a tagline to sell products globally. We have sold that concept to international financial institutions, and we confidently expect to sign the financing and launch of that in the next couple of weeks. At the Cayville campus, my esteemed colleague, Professor Landis, is leading the commercialization of our knowledge. And the classic example of that is their diabetes reversal product, where there's been a lot of research on how to manage and reverse diabetes. And that has been packaged into a commercial shake or a product that's going to be sold, from which we've partnered with a major distributor, and we will collect revenue on each product sold. At the St. Augustine campus, my colleague Rosemary is leading a project around cocoa and commercializing it. At the Mona campus, PVC Williams is engaged in an innovative liabilities management exercise to really free up some cash so that Mona can strive. Now, while I hope and expect that all of these projects will be successful and bring riches to the UWI, my message here is to implore colleagues and leaders within the UWI to embrace these ventures, because we're going to have to get used to it. It's the only way that we will be able to maintain that world-class university. And I also want to encourage corporate leaders, civil society, to join with us in really trying to craft these ventures. As a new principal of Five Islands, I think Five Islands has a distinct advantage of newness. And I view as one of my most urgent tasks is that from the outset, to instill in the campus a mantra and a culture of financial sustainability, independent as far as possible from government financing. I see myself as being tasked with crafting a business model that generates the financial sustainability that is the foundation for all the wonderful things that we want to do. And I think a question people often have in their mind is, why a landed campus in Antigua and the OECS? We already have UWI campuses. And what I see two critical reasons for having a landed campus in the Eastern Caribbean. One is the capacity, and it goes back to what I spoke earlier about moving away from the elitism. If you are to make a quantum leap in improving the quality of life, what you really need is a critical mass of capable human resources. You can never, again, to use the cricket metaphor, you can never know when you're going to create that genius of a Viv or somebody. What you need, however, is to have a critical mass of capable cricketers. So that even when you don't have these geniuses who come every one or other generation, you can keep performing at a high level. So what we tend to have in the Eastern Caribbean, because you don't have that landed campus providing that access to a broad range of people, what you have are pockets of excellence. What you have is a small group of highly skilled people in different areas. What you do not have is that critical mass. So having the landed campus gives us that capacity to really build that critical mass that we're going to need to navigate this complex environment. And the second major reason I see for having a landed campus in Antigua and Barbuda, servicing the OECS, is really driving research that can help to solve problems in the Eastern Caribbean. I consider myself a very Caribbean person focused on the region, but it was not until living here and working here that I felt the need to write an article in the newspaper critiquing the Antigua and Barbuda budget. Being present in a space, interacting with the people, the leaders, it focuses your mind on the research and the issues of that society and those societies, and to research them that with your best intentions you can't do from a distance. And we need solutions to our problems. We need solutions crafted to our own nuances. The international bodies mean well, they are our partners, but they don't understand us very well. Off-the-shelf solutions to our various problems are unlikely to work. We need solutions that are crafted to our unique circumstances. And the moment is critical, because I'm of the view that the world is at one of these epoch-defining moments in history. We are on the cusp almost of a different world. And I like to think of that as being captured in what I like to call the Triple C crisis in the Caribbean, the AI and Fifth Industrial Revolution, and the rise of a multipolar world. I think I'm of the view that for the next 5-10 years, we're going to see a very different world emerge among us, and we have to have the skills to navigate it. So one is a multipolar world. I came of age with really an East-West bloc, the US-Soviet bloc. Now we have to navigate this multipolar world. Europe is still there, North America is still there. Now we have China as an important player. Our campus build-out is being funded by a generous loan from the Saudi Development Fund. So the Asians, the Arabs are there. So we have now to navigate this multipolar world. And in a way, we have to learn to navigate and adopt the mantra mentioned by Errol Barrow, late Prime Minister, that we have to be friends of all, but satellites of none. And then we have what I call this Triple C crisis. There's the climate crisis. Anyone who doubted climate change I sure had those doubts shed in 2023 as we all ran and hid from the heat. The globe is heating in a rapid way. And the challenge for us as a world is that we have to change the way we live fundamentally. We don't think that we are damaging the climate when we get into our cars and drive every day. The food we eat, agriculture, the way it's produced, the quantity it's produced, again, is one of the major sources of greenhouse gas emissions. We have lighting, we have AC, it's all coming from fossil fuel. So we're going to have to craft a fundamentally different way to have a sustainable planet. And we are on the front line of this in the Caribbean. We face the second C, the crisis of chronic non-communicable diseases. And we all know about the diabetes, the hypertension, the early death. And the third C, the crime crisis. You know, Caribbean people are the most loving, warm, friendly people in the world. But alongside that, we seem very willing to just murder each other. The murder rates across the Caribbean are shocking. And if you do a top 10 of violent crime per capita in the world, for the last 15 years, in that top 10, there are at least 4 Caribbean countries that are in there. We have to fight this crisis of crime. And now we have AI, artificial intelligence. Great promise, great hope. The optimists argue that, like the first industrial revolution, that once we freed ourselves as humans from the limits of muscle and animal power, our capacity to produce goods and services went to levels that we could never imagine before. I sort of frame that if somebody who died in Antigua in 1800 came back today in 2024, they would be amazed at the material availability of material goods around us. Similarly, the optimists argue that AI offers the promise now. So whereas the first industrial revolution freed humans from the limits of their own muscle and animal power, that the AI revolution offers the chance to be freed of our own mental capacities. There are limits to our ability to solve problems. So Hiram, no matter, I know you're a math whiz, but you can only solve the calculus problems so quickly and only so much. So the machines can do a lot of that work. And that may unleash potentialities that we can't even begin to imagine at this time. However, with that comes tremendous risks. We are all going to have to retool. So again, as we navigate this challenging environment, so our old development challenges remain. But now we have these new challenges. What we're going to need is a critical mass of citizens who are critical thinkers, who can navigate this particular environment, and that we have research suited to our needs. So let's take a simple example with the climate change. Biggest topic in the world, but much of the research, everything is driven around climate change mitigation. How do we reduce the amount of CO2 going into the climate? However, if the entire Caribbean were to be carbon neutral, it would have no effect on the climate. We cannot pollute, we cannot do any damage. So if we were to rely on knowledge and research coming from outside, we'll be focused on climate mitigation, which really does nothing for us. Our big challenge is climate change adaptation. How do we adjust to the impact of climate change? So again, having a research, a policy agenda focused on adaptation is going to require knowledge grounded here, because other people are not going to solve our problems for us. They are going to focus their research and their funding on their own problems, which is perfectly rational. So I think it's very important and useful that we continue to expand this university project, because we need that expertise, we need that research more than ever. My vision of the campus as well is that diversity and inclusivity will be at the heart of our campus. I'm of the view that true innovation arises from the intersection of different perspectives, backgrounds, and experience. Therefore, I will actively cultivate an environment where every voice is heard, every identity respected, and every individual is given the chance to thrive. Now, the Uwi Five Islands campus is the only landed campus that is a digital native. Therefore, this campus must be technology-driven. So I will be seeking to infuse technology digitization in all aspects of operations. So Hiram, as you know the mantra, thou shalt not print. Daniel, I'm looking at you, that thou shalt not print. We need to be that digital tech-savvy campus because we are the only landed campus that is a digital native and we don't have to make this transformation. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the faculty, staff, student, alumni, and supporters who have dedicated themselves to the success of this institution called the UWI to date. At Five Islands, we will want to build on the legacy of past achievements and chart a course for a future defined by excellence, integrity, and compassion. I'm excited about the journey ahead, and I look forward to working collaboratively with each and every one of you to ensure that the Five Islands campus becomes a beacon of enlightenment and a catalyst for positive change. I want to thank the government and people of Antigua for taking this bold step to take the lead on having this landed campus. I also want to encourage other governments in the Eastern Caribbean to come on board and provide further support for this campus. The wicket has been laid by the former principals. We are in the land of Richie and Viv Richards, so Team Five Islands, it's our chance to play some shots and make some runs for the UWI and the Caribbean. I thank you.